Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Dugan. I am the new chair of the Board of Directors of Citigroup, having assumed the role on January 1, and I just want to say welcome. I'm very pleased to be with you here as this is my first meeting, the annual meeting as chair. And joining me on the stage is Mike Corbat, CEO of Citigroup, and on behalf of the rest of the Board of Directors, as I said, we are very pleased to welcome you to the 2019 annual meeting of stockholders. I will serve as chair of today's meeting, and Rohan Weerasinghe, our general counsel and corporate secretary, will act as secretary of the meeting. A few years ago, the board decided to alternate our annual meetings between New York City, which is home to our corporate headquarters, and other cities integral to Citigroup's business around the country. This year, of course, we are hosting our meeting here at Citi's headquarters, 388 Greenwich Street. Citi is transforming our Greenwich Street buildings into a global headquarters that will serve as the home for most of our colleagues located in New York City. We are proud to share this revitalized space with our stockholders, and we also extend a warm welcome to our stockholders who are participating in today's meeting through our audiocast. At this time, I would like to introduce the members of our Board of Directors who will be standing for re-election or election. Their backgrounds and qualifications are described in detail in the proxy statement you received for today's meeting. I would ask that our directors stand when I call their names. In addition to Mike and me, our current directors are Ellen Costello, Duncan Hennis, Peter Henry, Leslie Ireland, Jay Jacobs, Renee James, Eugene McQuaid, Gary Reiner, Diana Taylor, James Turley, Deborah Wright, and Ernesto Zedillo. And in addition, I'd like to introduce Barbara DeSora, but I understand there's been terrible traffic on her way. Is she here? Ah, there you are, Barbara. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't see you. Barbara DeSora, a new nominee to the board. Mr. Weerasinghe.
Thank you, Mr. Dugan. I'm pleased to report that all legal formalities for this meeting have been met and a quorum is present. I would like to remind you that today's presentation may contain forward-looking statements which are based on management's current expectations and are subject to uncertainty and changes in circumstance. Actual results in capital and other financial conditions may differ materially from these statements due to a variety of factors, including those in our SEC filings, including without limitation the risk factors section of our 2018 Form 10-K. In addition, for a reconciliation of non-GAAP financial measures to reported results, please see the Appendix A of Citi's 2018 Annual Report to Shareholders available on citigroup.com. At this time, I would like to review for the stockholders the agenda for today's meeting. An agenda and the rules of procedure for this meeting were placed on your chair before the meeting. We will begin by having our CEO, Mike Corbat, give the State of Citi presentation. At approximately 9:30, we will turn to the business portion of the meeting, the proposals to be considered. The proxy statement you received for today's meeting describes 7 matters to be voted on. As described in the agenda for today's meeting, we will begin with the presentation of the 4 management proposals. In order to be sure that stockholders are able to ask questions about all of the management proposals, we will introduce all of them at once. You will then have an opportunity to ask questions about any of the 4 management proposals brought before the meeting. This process is designed to maximize the amount of time for discussion of stockholder proposals and for stockholders to be able to ask questions about the company during the general question and answer session at the end of the meeting. No later than 10 o'clock, we will conclude the discussion of the management proposals and discuss the stockholder proposals. Each stockholder proponent will then present his or her proposal, and you will have the opportunity to ask questions after each one is presented. General questions about the company should be asked during the question and answer session later in the meeting. No later than 10:30 after the presentation of proposals, we will collect the ballots and close the polls. While the votes are being counted, you will have the opportunity to ask any general questions about the company. No later than 11:30, I will report on the vote, and the meeting will be adjourned. As a courtesy to your fellow stockholders, I would remind everyone to turn off all devices, and in accordance with procedures for this meeting, photographing, recording, or videotaping these proceedings are prohibited. Thank you, Mr. Dugan.
Thank you, Mr. Weerasinghe. Our CEO, Mike Corbat, will now give a presentation on the State of Citi. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to my fellow shareholders joining us today in New York and by audiocast. We're pleased to be holding this meeting for the first time at our global headquarters in Lower Manhattan, only a short walk away from where our firm was founded over 200 years ago. This building is over 30 years old, but we're in the midst of rebuilding it from the ground up. The open plan spaces we work in express a culture that is more collaborative, creative, diverse, and inclusive. At our headquarters and at many Citi sites worldwide, we've reimagined our internal environment as we constantly adjust to the external environment. That environment is composed of a confluence of economic, political, social, and technological forces. The future of this firm depends in large part on our ability to keep pace with and capture the many opportunities that are embodied in these changes. That environment, it certainly impacted our 2018 financial results as we swung from a January that was marked by positive sentiment driven by tax reform, synchronized global growth, to a December when markets declined with a velocity rarely seen. Throughout the year, we drove steady, meaningful progress towards the overarching goal that we laid out at Investor Day in 2017, and that is to improve the returns we generate on our capital and to increase the return of capital to our shareholders. Across Citi, we recognize that the expectations of our institutional and consumer clients are becoming more and more alike, and we've been working harder than ever to make sure that we meet them. We know that consumers often compare their experiences with us to those of our competitors and those from companies in different industries. That's why throughout our global consumer bank, we're providing a more personalized offers to consumers and creating more intuitive, convenient, self-service platforms. In the US, our largest consumer market, we're continuing to enhance our digital capabilities, making it easier for us to deliver to our clients no matter where or how they choose to interact with us. We're growing mobile users at the fastest pace among our peers and using digital channels to deepen our clients' relationships, both in and outside our core retail banking markets. We also made structural changes in our U.S. consumer franchise. We unified our leadership of our branded cards and retail banking products to create a more effective client-centric structure as it exists in other regions. This alignment is designed to attract new clients and convert a larger proportion of our more than 28 million branded cards clients into multi-relationship clients. In Mexico, we're also increasing our digital capabilities, where our new mobile app is driving double-digit user growth. We're also leveraging the success that we've had in Asia, where we see high digital engagement and fast-growing digital lending platforms. Our institutional clients also expect easy and simple experiences when they engage with us on mobile and digital channels. That's why we're doing things like streamlining client onboarding and increasing the capabilities of corporate treasurers to manage their funds throughout our global network, no matter where they are that day. We also made structural changes in our institutional clients group to improve the client experience and outcomes. We combined our corporate and investment banking and capital markets originations divisions into a new unit, banking, capital markets, and advisory. Now, clients gain a broader access to a range of creative solutions across our institutional platform. And our bankers take an even more holistic view of those clients and their evolving needs. Doing all these things supported the execution of our strategy and contributed to our performance. Across our consumer and institutional franchises, we generated 3% underlying revenue growth. In our consumer bank, we realized the benefits of the investments we made in areas including U.S. branded cards and retail services, which was aided by the acquisition of the LL Bean portfolio. In Mexico, we continue to grow revenues and improve efficiency as we accelerate our digital transformation. In Asia, we saw healthy inflows of assets under management and good growth in the number of Citi Gold clients, despite the uncertain macro environment. In our institutional clients group, year-end velocity and uncertainty impacted our market-sensitive businesses, including fixed income and investment banking. However, we did grow share in revenue in both M&A and equities, and our steady accrual-like businesses, including Treasury and Trade Solutions, Security Services, the Private Bank, and Corporate Lending, grew revenues by an aggregate 9% for the year. Despite widespread concerns about trade tensions, our global network again showed that it is uniquely positioned to capture trade flows no matter how or where they shift. The performance of the business drove our $18 billion of net income last year, which was 14% higher than in 2017, excluding the one-time impact of tax reform in both periods. On this basis, our earnings per share increased 25% to $6.65 a share, driven by a combination of higher net income and share repurchases. We continued to make progress on our efficiency ratio, driving it down to approximately 57% for the year after lowering our expense base to just under $42 billion. We increased our return on tangible common equity to 10.9%, surpassing our target of at least 10.5% for the year as we work toward our goal of at least 13.5% in 2020. Our performance on the Federal Reserve's Comprehensive Capital Analysis and Review, or CCAR, is allowing us to return $22 billion of capital for the 2018-2019 cycle. Yesterday, we announced our first quarter results for 2019. We reported net income of $4.7 billion, or $1.87 per share. Our earnings per share were 11% higher than a year ago. And we continued to make progress toward our goal of improving our returns on and of capital. We drove our return on tangible common equity to 11.9%, 50 basis points higher than in the first quarter of 2018. We generated positive operating leverage and improved our efficiency for the 10th quarter in a row. We also drove growth in loans and deposits in our core businesses. In our global consumer bank, we drove 4% underlying revenue growth with contributions from every region. In particular, our North America franchise performed well, growing underlying revenues by 5% in branded cards and 3% in retail services. Our institutional clients group also delivered a good quarter. Total banking revenues were up 8%, driven by Treasury and Trade Solutions, investment banking. Fixed income rebounded from a rough fourth quarter and achieved modest growth compared to a year ago. We returned over $5 billion through a combination of share buybacks and dividends, and we've reduced our shares outstanding by 9% from a year ago and almost 25% since I became CEO. We recently submitted our capital plan to the Federal Reserve, and we're working towards our Investor Day commitment of returning at least $60 billion to shareholders over the 3-year period, ending in mid-2020, subject, of course, to regulatory approval. I began my remarks today by talking about the culture we've built at Citi to be more collaborative, creative, diverse, and inclusive. Earlier this year, after disclosing our adjusted pay gap in 2018, we reaffirmed our commitment to transparency by disclosing our unadjusted pay gap, which showed that women at Citi earn 71% median pay versus men. The size of that gap underscores the importance of the firm-wide representation goals that we announced in August, aimed at advancing more women and minorities at Citi by increasing the number of Black colleagues in the U.S. and female colleagues globally in senior positions in our firm. One way to reach our representation goals is to focus on our hiring pipeline through our summer analyst and our associate programs. For this summer's class, we're currently on track to improve our female representation from 39% 2 years ago to 47%, and to improve our Black and Hispanic representation from 15% to 26%. Our stated goal for upcoming classes is an even 50-50 balance of men, women, and 30% for minorities. While we clearly have more work to do, these numbers are very encouraging to me as we try to meet the firm-wide representation goals that we laid out last summer. Throughout the year, thousands of Citi colleagues demonstrated their commitment to the communities that we serve. In June, we brought more than 100,000 Citi volunteers in more than 450 cities in 90 countries and territories to work on more than 1,400 community service projects. It was our largest ever Global Community Day. From feeding hungry people to revitalizing schools, our people showed the positive impact our company has on our communities. Not just on Global Community Day, but every day. Right here in this building, we've incorporated a series of sustainability features for which we're hoping to achieve a LEED Platinum certification from the U.S. Green Building Council. They include a cogeneration plant that will produce heat and electricity right here on site. We're going to reduce our carbon footprint from this building by 30%. And we've also announced a commitment to source 100% of our global energy from renewable sources by the year 2020. And our commitment, it goes deeper than our own operations. In 2018, we recorded $38 billion of transactions toward our 10-year, $100 billion environmental finance goal, which we will reach several years early. We're also partners with state and local governments across the country as they meet critical infrastructure needs. In 2018, Citi catalyzed more than $26 billion in U.S. infrastructure capital projects, including bridges, hospitals, airports, water, and public power, and that number's up from $22 billion in 2017. We provided $6 billion to finance construction and preservation of more than 36,000 affordable housing units across the United States. That level of investment not only set a new record for us at Citi, but it also maintained our ranking as the leading financier of affordable housing for the 9th year in a row. And while we do pride ourselves in having a global network that is scaled to serve some of our country's best-known multinational corporations, we also take great pride in helping small business grow and succeed. And we've doubled the amount of small business lending in the U.S. we've done since the financial crisis. And last year, we provided nearly $12 billion of various products to small businesses across our country. In closing, now that we've closed out the first quarter of 2019, I want to take note that we believe our financial targets are achievable and that we're committed to continuing to make steady progress towards them every day throughout this and the coming years. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you these thoughts today. And John, with that, I'll turn it back to you.